Hey YouTube, welcome back to Tinker Tools. Today we are going to be talking about the top 10 tools that I have reviewed so far this year. So let's get it right into that on Tinker with Tools. Now, so far this year, I have reviewed over 50 tools, certainly enough to be able to pick a top list from of the ones that really stood out as being the most impressive tools that I reviewed this year. Now, that most impressive could be that it just truly impressed me with the performance, or that it simply exceeded the expectations that I had put on the tool. I'll be sure to mention that when I review them. Now, these are in no particular order, but we are going to go through all 10, talk about what I like about them, what was impressive, and why I think you should check them out. Let's go ahead and get into that and start with the first tool. Now, right off the top, we're going to be talking about Milwaukee's Made in the USA hand tools. These are something that when they were first announced, I thought it was cool. Product offering is not necessarily vast at this point, but it seemed like they were certainly taking a step in the professional direction in terms of their hand tools. Now, Milwaukee has had hand tools on the market for quite a while, and I really think that they just weren't on par with some of the better brands in their respective segment. When they announced that they were going to be having these new Made in the USA screwdrivers and pliers, I made sure to go ahead and order some of them and pick them up. Had expectations for what they were going to be, and they easily met those expectations. Now, with the screwdrivers, one of the things that I really like is the knurling on the shaft that you do get on most of them, and overall the grip is something that I was a little concerned about to begin with, just because of maybe some of the plastic on it, but I have found myself liking it quite a bit. Now, the pliers are another thing that I actually have really enjoyed. Ever since I got these have been the only pliers that I've been carrying in my everyday go bag. These tools definitely were a step up and a step in the right direction, and it's not necessarily that they're going to be better than some of the other professional lines of tools, but they're competitive, and that is something that I think is important for Milwaukee going forward. Definitely very impressive. Now, the next tool I'm going to be talking about is the ToughBuilt StackTech. Right off the gate, this one surprised me, and the more I think about it, it makes sense that they would go into something like this. And I think the most impressive thing is just how much they have outlined their plan of what they're going to do. The initial offering that I've gotten my hands on has been impressive enough that I am excited for what's going to be coming throughout the year next year, and definitely something that I do plan on buying a little bit more of. But in terms of rugged durability, I think these are top notch. They go together easier than any other box that you're going to try and put together. The chamfered edges really just kind of guide the box into place. It self-locks, and it has been secure so far. But more importantly, it is going to be their response to public criticism of a couple of different things. They've already announced corrections for a few of the things that we mentioned in the first video, and one of my critiques was just with how many moving parts there were with the self-locking system. But I've since found out that that lock is actually replaceable. And so that is something that, in my opinion, is a great response to the public and kind of giving them what they want and being able to make it an adaptable system. I'm excited for what's coming down, and this is certainly one of the more impressive things that I've gotten my hands on this year. Next up, we are going to be talking about easily one of the most divisive tool brands on the internet today, and that is going to be Festool. It seems like you either love Festool or hate Festool, and I tend to be someone who loves the tools that I get, even though I'm not necessarily going to go hog wild and buy every tool that they own. I initially reviewed the original Festool CSX, and although I like the tool, it was one of those halo tools that I had always dreamt of owning, and when I finally got my hands on it, it just kind of left me wanting more in terms of power, and it made some of the quirks of the Festool ecosystem just feel like they weren't necessarily worth it compared to what I could get with the competition. Now, when they announced that they were coming out with the new 18 volt and 12 volt versions, I went out and picked up the 12 volt, and overall, it has been an impressive tool. Now, this doesn't mean it's perfect. It definitely changed from the original tool, but for me, a lot of the changes that they made were for the better. Getting the additional power, the tool shrunk front to back, and overall, I think it just feels like a better tool than the original. Now, the motor noise is certainly something that's going to stand out, and for a lot of you, that appears to be a deal killer. That is something that you're willing to accept, then everything else that they changed about the tool, I really think is an improvement. Go ahead and check out the videos we've done on the Festool CSX12. I really think you might like it. Earlier this year, I got my hands on the new Makita TD173D from Japan. This is a tool that I had to import through eBay. I've long been a fan of Makita impact drivers. They're never going to be the most powerful or necessarily the fastest impact drivers on the market, but what they do offer, much better than any other tool brand in my opinion, is refinement and precision in their tools. and just a really nice impact driver to use. Now, a couple of the things that stand out. First off is going to be that halo light right up front. That definitely is one of the brightest, if not the brightest, lights that I have seen on an impact driver. They centered the handle on the actual battery, and it offers just a really nice, well-balanced tool in my opinion. And then the last big change is they did go ahead and move the control panel around to the rear. I know that in the past, for example, I've harped on things like the original triple hammer for having it on the side here. It just seemed like, why mess with something that we're all used to? In use, I have found myself liking it. Power-wise, this is not necessarily going to be more impressive than some of the other top Makita impact drivers. I think it's just enough different. If you haven't already, you can go ahead and click on the link down below. You'll be able to go to what I consider to be a reliable eBay seller that can go ahead and get this for you. And the good news is, from the time when I bought it, prices have come down almost $40 US on it. I wish they'd just release it in the US market. So for that reason, that's why the Makita stands out as one of the more impressive tools I've tried out this year. Go ahead and check out the videos I did on it. Now on to the next one. Now, easily the most anticipated tool that I have had has been the Milwaukee M18 fuel track saw. When they announced the Milwaukee track saw, kind of got my hopes up for it being just incredible. And I was really worried when I finally pre-ordered it that when I received it, it would not meet my expectation. Well, I can say that after using it for almost a full year now, that it has not only met my expectations, but in some ways exceeded them. I just wanted to have a really nice, solid track saw that had enough power to do what I wanted to, offer the precision that I needed, and so far this tool has been just that. And overall, the fit, finish, build quality, all those things with this tool, and the performance definitely meets all the needs I have for it, and so it easily met and exceeded some of the expectations I had. I really do like this one, and it easily made the list of the most impressive tools I've reviewed this year. So next up, we are going to be talking about the Hercules brushless tools, specifically the drill driver and the impact driver. This is definitely a step up for Harbor Freight and the Hercules brand. Now, are these world beaters? Are they the strongest and most impressive impact driver and drill on the market? No, I don't think they are, but they are competitive with that kind of upper tier of tools. When they initially announced the Hercules brand over at Harbor Freight, the tool offerings were good for Harbor Freight standards. I feel like with these most recent brushless tools, they're now good for a lot of tool standards, and you can certainly do a lot worse than buying these tools and relying on them as your tools. Probably the most impressive thing that Harbor Freight did with this is offering a 5-year tool warranty on these tools. And the nice thing about their tool warranty is if they break, you can go ahead and exchange them over the counter. Between the added performance that they had, the added warranty, this was easily one of the more impressive tool launches that we had this year. Go ahead and check out the videos I've done on the Hercules brushless tools. Let me know down in the comments what other Hercules brushless tools would you like to see tested. Maybe we'll have to do some more next year. All right, now next up, this one was one that it was hard to decide which bag I was going to put up here. Earlier in the year, I went and did a review of 2 different Vito Pro Pack bags, and then later in the year, Milwaukee, they went ahead and announced their new Packout structured bags. This is the Packout tote. It certainly was one that caught my eye because it felt very much like the Vito that I had purchased earlier that year, and I wanted to see if Milwaukee was finally making something on par with those Vito. The reason why the Milwaukee one's up here is simply because it is the one that I've committed to using for a while and then giving you kind of a follow-up video on. So kind of consider this a little bit of a sneak peek of that. Overall, I'm very impressed with the bag, but I think it could very easily be the Vito that is up here. Either one of the Vitos I've loved as well. That doesn't mean it's a perfect bag. My biggest complaint is with this handle. It just does not like to stay upright. It kind of flops down. Let me know down in the comments below if that's something you've seen with your Packout bag if you have this bag, because it annoys the heck out of me sometimes. And it doesn't really affect it when you're carrying it around. It's more so when you go ahead and try and get into it, the handle flops down and kind of gets over that center section and makes it a little bit harder to access those tools. Everything else about the bag is actually really nice. And I think it really comes down to, if you want to be in Packout and have Packout compatibility, this is a good alternative to the Vito. If that doesn't matter to you, then go ahead and buy the Vito, because it is an excellent bag as well. They are hefty price tags, but I think the bags are worth it. And I think they fit the needs that I have certainly been looking for in a bag. And really, the quality between the two is kind of a toss-up in my opinion. And so for that reason, I think either one could have been up here on the table today. It's just that this is where the tools are right now. All right, now another offering from Harbor Freight is going to be this little bit driver from Icon. In this, you're gonna go ahead and just get a little 1/4-inch flex head ratchet. You do get an extension handle that can be used in various different ways. Make sure to check out the full video if you wanna see everything that it can do. And then just a really nice versatile assortment of bits. My only gripe about it when it came out is that it doesn't have any sockets in it, but in the size that it is, you really couldn't fit sockets in it. Now, if the sockets are a deal killer for you, if you noticed, I think it was at SEMA or one of the other kind of year-end tool shows, they did announce that they're coming out with a new version of this that is going to be a little bit bigger, but it is going to have some included sockets in it. And so it is nice to see them kind of listening to that customer feedback. But in terms of small, compact bit drivers, I like it as much as I like the one from Vera, the Vera Tool Check, and I would buy it again if I lost it or if something happened to it. Certainly is something that I was impressed by, even with some lofty expectations going into it. All right, now next up is going to be another twofer. Earlier in the year, roughly around maybe August, September, I went and picked up the new compact kit, as I call it, from Metabo HPT. This was a new drill driver and impact driver that kind of was their new mid-tier offering. They shrunk them both in size, and so that's why our firm is compact. What stood out most, and the reason why the drill's out here, the drill driver is one that I've sneakily found finding its way to my workbench and into my hand for different projects. The build quality and refinement and the nice trigger are something that I find myself loving about the tool. Everything about it is just substantially more impressive than the previous mid-tier offerings that they had. So for that reason, this one makes the table. Now in the recent month or so, we actually got our hands on the brand new 36-volt version of their new drill. This one kind of re-levels the playing field a little bit. It puts the torque performance figures really on par with some of the better drills on the market. And the refinement and everything that I like about the improvements of this one kind of made their way over to here as well. Overall, they're very similar drills. The feel and operation of them is very similar. It's just kind of big brother, little brother almost. Pretty much everything that I liked about the original 36 volt is still here, but then they improved it by making it a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter, a little more powerful. The anti-kickback works a little bit better in my opinion. And just overall, it is an upgrade in my opinion. And for that reason, it exceeded the expectations I had set for it. Metabo HPT gets overlooked far too often, and they really do have some nice tools, and they're tools that I think are worth checking out. So go ahead and take a look at them. Now, one of the last tools we're going to be talking about today is going to be one of the tools that I've reviewed most recently, and that is going to be the M12 Fuel barrel grip jigsaw. And this tool is one that I had been wanting to try a barrel grip jigsaw for a while. Traditionally, I've always used D handles, and when they announced this one at their pipeline event, it just kind of seemed like a natural one to try. It's nice that it's a little more compact. My biggest question was going to be if it had enough power, and spoiler alert if you haven't watched the video, it certainly was impressive in what it can do. Is it more powerful than a dedicated 18-volt jigsaw? No, it's not going to be, but they did manage to shave almost a pound over this. It was able to do all the tasks that the M18 did in my testing, but it just did it a little bit slower. I did find that with this form factor and with the decreased size, I felt like I had a little bit more control over the jigsaw. Now, as Rob would say over on the tool show, blessed be the barrel grip. I have seen the light, and it's definitely something that I'm glad that I gave it a try. And for that reason, it certainly landed on the list of most impressive tools. This was a clear choice for me. And so go ahead and check out the videos on the M12 barrel grip jigsaw. That is the list of the top 10 most impressive tools that I've reviewed. Now, overall, there were a lot of impressive tools this year, as I mentioned. So if there are videos that you missed throughout the year, go ahead and go back and check them out, because I think there's a lot of impressive things happening in the tool world and a lot of tools that could easily have made this list. Now, at the end of this, I do want to hear from you. What are the tools that you've tried this year that have stood out as being the more impressive tools that you've gotten your hands on? Now, if you like the video, go ahead and hit that like button. Please consider subscribing and making sure you check that bell notification icon so you can get notified when I release new videos. As always, at this time of year, happy holidays, and until next time, I'll catch you on Tinker with Tools.